Art means different things to different people. It can range from moving art on television to static pieces in frames or artistic patterns on textiles. Art takes the form of any medium you choose to tell your story. It is not a standalone phenomena, but an ever evolving organic expression. Today, we are going to talk about the use of art in content. My name is Abid, and this is What's Doing. Our guest today is Nini Marini, a multidisciplinary artist whose journey began with a degree in visual communications from the UK. She went on to head content teams at Media Prima and now leads one of the largest artistic foundations in Malaysia, Yayasan Hasanah. Like any great artist, Nini never conformed to one medium. She has continuously evolved across time and platforms. Welcome, Nini, to What's Doing. Thank you so much for taking time out and coming. And just before we start, I'm a big fan of your work. Starting off with, you're such a great artist. And, I always think that there's an artist and his art. And can you separate both the art from the artist and you can treat them differently? What do you think about that?
Yes, you can. And I think, yeah, when I was reading your question, I was like, oh, can you? And of course, especially with me, I'm such a multi-hyphenate, I would like to call myself. And I think the ability for me, sometimes I can be the observer with my art, and sometimes I can be one with my art. And sometimes I might not even just consider it part of my life. So I think it's really possible to create these pockets for yourself and these tubs to maneuver. So especially me, I have multiple personalities. So I feel I think you definitely can separate the two.
Oh, really? I mean, you had a great, run, and from an artistic point of view, from your career journey, and what amazes me is that you have made an impact across so many platforms. Could you share your journey with us of how did you manage all these, different platforms, and how was your journey on these platforms?
Oh, I don't know about making an impact, but I definitely like being friends and making friends with people like you was my little milestone. So, little plug. But no, how did I manage it? I think I've always had to fight against the grain with me ever since school. I grew up loving art, and I always had to find a way to wedge in, and so even in primary school, finally people understood that I'm a really artistic girl. So even for Ugama class, I'd get away with not actually learning, but because my ustaza likes to do the Qurans, or she likes to write the Quran, so she would ask me to do the borders around it. So that's how I kind of got away. So I think my life has been a little bit interesting that way, where you put me in a box per se, or you put me in a situation, I'm just going to have to flow and wedge in and sort of amalgamate myself into the situation. So that's how it started for me. And I think it translated into my professional career. I did art school. I graduated in university in visual communications, and that would be the artist version of media communications. I actually wanted to be an animator, but my mom said that's no life. I was really
dark rooms,
So I joined and I did this visual communications, which at the time was this groundbreaking art degree, where you're able to mix all kinds of things to create art. And I think so. Even in university, I was really obsessed with television. And I had this idea that when I go back to Malaysia, what am I going to do with this this degree of mine? So even in art school, I kind of maneuvered it towards television. So all of my study was either learning about Dexter's Lab artistic journey, the animation of Matt Groening. I wrote a paper on that, so all I had to do.
On Matt Groening?
Yeah, so all I had to do was watch cartoons all day.
Wow.
Powerpuff Girl, and because it was the thick line era, and also South Park and the cutout animation. So at that period, it was all about fast animation and how they cut short things.
Yeah.
So that was that. And then I also did a paper on like how the movie is manipulative as can be manipulated by trailers. So all of those topics was self-directed. And I was like the media girl in art school. So when I graduated, I actually had like a internship lined up at Channel 4 in the UK, but we had recession at the time. And dad was like, I'm not paying for another year for you to faff about in the UK. You have to come back and start paying. So came back, and not even 2 weeks of that, my dad said, you need to go and check this guy out in TV3, see Uncle so-and-so, and see if you can get a job there. So I went, girl from the UK, and he said, oh, TV3 is changing. We need people like you. So here's the deal. You have assistant producer for sports or entertainment, you pick.
Oh.
And I went, oh, I don't know anybody except for Siti Noaliza. I heard that she's a songbird. I missed the whole too fat thing. So I'm like, okay, sports. So that's how it started. My career started in sports production. And art student to sports. That was amazing, right? Like, how do you do that? I was wrestling Formula 1.
From fiction to factual.
Yeah, like the first job was going to badminton and doing the score for that. And I was like, oh, how do I do this? But it was really good for me to learn the discipline of production. And eventually everybody caught on that I can do more than that. And so I finally found myself into brand for sports. And that's when I started doing promos. And that's when my visual communication skills came in, thank God. So I was doing storyboards. I was like creating like, visuals and telling people stories with my art and making really cool promos,
No, so we have that promos connection from past. Right?
Yeah, we were just talking about it, debt to debt. They don't even know these days, these kids.
DG and beta tapes, So the broadcast industry often prioritize, practical solutions like budgets over art. And during your time at Media Prima, how did you balance the two?
Budget over art. I think I learned very quickly, I really wanted to make a difference in Malaysian television. I wanted to change everything. Like literally, I wanted TV3 to look like MTV. So that was just not going to happen. So I learned very quickly that the client at the time was TV3, the brand, wanted things a certain way. And how I dealt with that was, how can I creatively put my idea, my concept into this? And so I came up with this idea called massify. Massify. So Nini Marini Urban, I would massify every idea that I had. And I began to realize that the content doesn't necessarily have to change, but the people, the host, the language, the graphics, that can change aesthetically. That's the easiest thing to change. And I realized that I could keep the creativity, the art behind the concept alive, but I just needed to give it a different cover.
It's like eating nasi lemak in a 5-star hotel.
Yeah. Correct. Yes, it is like that. Exactly. What kind of china is it? Nasi daun, or are you going to use a plate? That type of thing.
Oh, so art is a very subjective thing. And, and creating television content makes it even more so. So as, everybody has their own interpretation of art. How did you navigate subjectivity and make it work for yourself? How did your art and your thought process made that work for the shows you were creating?
Oh yeah, no, it was a lot of the art of persuasion. I think that one of the key things that I realized very quickly is that the communicating your ideas out and selling it to them and rationalizing it makes more sense. And I think collaboration is a huge part of my DNA. And so I said I would try to understand where they were coming from in that respect. And there was always a middle ground that I could find when I wanted to assert some of my ideas across, especially when I'm coming up with concepts for award shows and things like that. I would come in and I was like, okay, this year it's going to be art is magic, or whatever, music is magic. And they'd be like, oh, what, and like putting that idea into their brand was something that I really needed to work hard at, finding a language that they understood. So I didn't necessarily need it to change my ideas so much, but I needed to present it in a language that they understood.
I think that's a very smart thing to do, because if you want to make your ideas work, you need to just take a detour and
Yeah.
but make them feel that they are.
Hear you. So I'll just change the color. How is that?
Oh, that works perfectly fine. So I consider storytelling a form of art. And how have you integrated storytelling into your artistic journey, and particularly for television?
That has happened many times. And I'll give you one example. I came up with this concept. It was all about the movers and shakers of this industry. Pitched it to 8TV, and eventually it became a show called Self-Made. And Self-Made is all about people trying and breaking through barriers and just going and cracking the glass ceiling, as it were. And it was a moment in 8TV, I think, that was really important. And even for me, because I was going through this side gig that I wanted to be art for life, art for life, art for life, right? Like do what you love. And they celebrated that. And I eventually starred in it. So I think that's how I started weaving this story of like how you need to chase your passion and do what you love. And that has translated into a lot of the concept that I've created in the past. Finding
Even for television.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I've come up with some crazy ones. And it's all about, just, sometimes the theme is about finding the thing that you do best in life. That's my theme, and I infuse it into a magazine show or an award show, breaking barriers and things like that. So I think that's how I kind of like, stayed.
You basically work on the DNA and an artistic DNA to a show.
Yeah.
Which works perfectly fine.
Do you know? Nobody needs to know that this is what I'm going through.
Yeah.
But it so happened it was relevant to the time.
So it's very rare to see traditional artists working in television. Why do you think there is such a divide between these two mediums?
I don't know. And sometimes it really was frustrating for me, especially when I left media. And they were like, "Oh, Marini, you artist, you paint." I'm like, like, why can't I be multiple? Like, come on. That's why I branded myself multi-artist, right? Like a multi-hyphenate, but an artist at heart. And actually, it's just a brush, right? Like, artist equals brush, TV equals camera. That's how rigid everyone is thinking, So what was question again?
No, I'm just saying that, why do you think it's such a divide between?
Because people are so hard up to put themselves into little boxes and labels.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so suddenly I just needed to exist in a canvas and you need to be in a studio room. But why can't I, the artist, be in the studio? And it's just something that I feel was my edge in Media Prima, because I could do all of that. And I could come to the office and one day paint the wall. And that became a background for melody till today. Yeah, you see the color one? If you see these swirls and they're always like taking interviews against the swirl, I don't know if they use it, but they use it for a long time. And I remember as well, when they started to embrace me as an artist, that was the very magical part when my world intersected. Before that, I kept it very separate. Nini Marini media, Nini Marini the artist, and then one day, boom, it collided. And it was just so beautiful, because eventually people introduced me as like, "Oh yeah, meet Nini, she's the artist." I'm like, "No, but I'm also in content innovation. Can I talk to you about content?"
That's good. That's a new brand of artists, and we can have in both platforms. And
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think artists should be seen as people that they can actually do things. They are great creative thinkers. They can think outside the box, but we need to train the artists as well.
Yeah.
But we are highly adaptable people, and you are an artist as well. You are a literature artist of the word, and I think that's very important for people to understand. Why is it a certain person needs to be in the broadcast world? And what is that person anyways? But a creator.
But from a talent perspective,
Okay.
what's stopping artists from exploring new platforms or collaborating with other artists?
Collaboration, ego. Well, I think the biggest one is ego. Money. Money, how much are you going to pay me for? Ego. Who's going to be the bigger player here? And I think this is where my experience in production became something quite of value, because you are not a solo player in production. Everybody has a role to
You're nothing without your team.
nothing. Okay. And so I think this idea of me being able to talk to multiple people was really good for me when I wanted to collaborate with other people. I was able to socialize and say, hey, this is my idea. What do you think? You know, even doing co-productions back in the day, right? I want to do this television show. You do this one. And so that kind of skill set I was brought into when I started having conversations with other artists to co-create. And a lot of people, especially the pure artists out there, they don't really want to do that because they're scared of failure. What if my vision is not seen? But that's not how I usually do my art. Those are the things, and that stems from ego. So yeah, the need or like the lack of collaboration, the lack of co-creation stems from ego and fear of, I think. And if I were to say this to any artist, they'll be like, no, but it's pretty true. It's about like, where is my point of view going to be seen? Or like maybe his part is going to be bigger than my part. So I don't think we should measure it that way. I think when you come in, you want to create something together, no matter who puts in what amount. I think the end product is that it is the amalgamation of two or co-creation of two minds or three even. So I think that's the beauty of it. More artists need to do it to be innovative now. In fact, I'm trying to see whether we can innovate cross sections now, like not artist to artist, but artists in tech and artists in yeah.
Because art is needed everywhere. Yes, from an album cover to the landing page of an OTT platform, you can see art everywhere. So I think that is where I think progression of art and collaboration with other artists matter.
I mean, just as when you said that, I'm like, what about AI? Right?
I'm coming to that. So just shifting gears and talking about, your family has been, has deep ties to traditional Malaysian textile design and art, and you have been instrumental in its restoration and promotion for a long time. You're making Malaysian textile art designs cool again. Can you tell us more about it?
Say that a little bit more convincingly.
No, but trust me, I mean, look at you. It's part of, I can surely say that it's part of history or something.
Well, I kind of did it because of you, because this is the Indian paisley.
Oh, really?
So like, paisleys is a huge motif and very known in India. They love their paisleys. And so I did it. And of course we love blue, right? Now this is a different kind of blue. It's purpley blue. Remember?
Yes.
Anyway, they don't know what we're talking about. So back to that. You're saying AI, right?
No, I'm talking about the textile.
Textile. Talking about textiles, my mother was instrumental in making me fall in love with traditional textiles. My journey in textiles started with her. She was a lecturer in a university for 20 years, and she taught surface pattern design and textile design. And I imagine me, little Nini, following her to university and seeing all of this in front of me. Of course, I would be bound to be affected by it, right? So I was very obsessed with motif and pattern growing up, but I never went to university to study it. My mother did not want me to do that, hence visual communications. So then later on in my older years, and we've always been like every year, fabrics are a huge thing for Raya and all that. And she started getting involved in traditional textiles with the former queen. And that's when I started paying attention to it. And I started to see the magic in traditional textiles, the stories that it told, and if only they taught me history this way. Like, how the silk route and the oceanic route, and how it all amalgamated and how it all came together, how our cultures intersected and how it was told through fabric. And I think that was the beauty. That's why I said, okay, this is something that I need to pay more attention of. And I got myself into a little mud pool. So my mother founded a textiles organization, and she swiftly escalated me to president because she was too tired to run the NGO. So I was doing that for the last 4 years. And it was about instilling love and pride for traditional Malay textiles. And, do you know traditional Malay textiles? And the three main categories of it?
Well, I only know batik.
Well, batik is good. Good that you know batik. There's also tenun and there's also Songket. And there's a difference. Tenun means weave, and Songket is also weave, but Songket uses gold thread. And so my quest is to get people more involved and to know more about it, because actually the clothes on your back tell a huge story, and where you come from.
Even the patterns, you know.
Motifs. That's a huge thing for Malaysian motifs as well, that, you know, the pucuk rebung, which is like the bamboo shoot. Recently, I interviewed a seventh generation Songket weaver, the son. I was coaching him because he was giving a talk in Saudi. And he was telling me, do you know that the pucuk rebung, it means shade, or it means protection. And it's put on the back of a sarong to protect you or protect people from your, they would say, not so good self. That's amazing, right? It's like a force field, basically, the idea.
It's like all Jedi stuff, you know.
Oh, so if we kind of like contextualize traditional textiles like Jedi way, like we learn hieroglyphics, right?
Yeah.
And if we can decode and tell stories through our motifs, I think there's a huge a thing that we can unlock and tell stories to the younger generation. And hopefully, I don't know, how can we reach them?
But you're doing a lot, you know, nurturing the next generation of Malaysian artists, you know, from teaching young kids and, you know, mentoring industry newcomers. How has this part of your journey been, and how would you describe the current generation of Malaysian artists?
Okay, so that's another. I love your sweeping claims that I'm doing this like single-handedly, like, you know.
You're taking the initiative of doing it.
Okay, yeah, I'm doing part of it, like whoever that I can impact, right? So, how am I finding the generation now? So I'm going to talk it and hold it down to my 15-year-old niece and my 20-year-old nephew. I teach them how to do brainstorming, ideation. I found that the pandemic affected them in a huge way, and learning how to put 2 or 3 ideas together and developing it into a new idea is something of a challenge for people. And that's a problem. So if I say, Abid, today I'm going to get you to get this mug and this phone and combine it, can you come up with a new story for me? Can you do it?
It'll be hard, but yeah.
Why can't you do it? But I think the new generation will be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm giving up. I'm going to watch TikTok or something like that. So that's my view of the new generation. And then I've been teaching people process art. I like to teach people the idea of creating, like artistic habits. So, you know, failing fast, learning how to make a mess, and learning how paints work, and not telling them that they need to paint a flower this way. I want them to discover and express what a flower means to them. So I teach 2 or 3-year-olds. Surprisingly, have a lot of patience for them. So like from 3 to 5-year-olds, and they're amazing. So I'm the state of the world right now, Abid. Okay, so the 3-year-old, I'll give them a pen, draw. They take the pen, they draw. They draw with their mouth, right? I go to the 8-year-old, I give them the brush. I said, draw me a circle. How big do you want me to draw it? And they'll draw it, right? I go to the 12-year-old and then say, draw me your circle. I need a rubber. I need a pencil. How? I don't know. I'm stressed. Oh my God. And they have a meltdown right in front of me just because I told them to draw something. Oh. This is the state currently. And I saw it from my own eyes at not so long ago when I had an art party.
Yeah.
So, but I'm concerned about the 12 or 13-year-old who's really attached to the mobile device and has all these ideas of insecurity embedded. I don't know where it is, but it's a big thing. And I've spoken to a lot of parents about that. They are really unsure of themselves. And I don't know whether I'm only seeing it now at my age, or has it always existed? I feel like I was a little bit more adventurous when I was younger. So maybe they need to play out and get out more.
And I think this whole anxiety which is building up because of social media, I think that is also playing out. Because they're spending so much time in front of the screen, and when they have to do any work physically or, you know, creatively, that, you know, they get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why they have these meltdown. That's my opinion of what the scenario might be at this point of time.
So my thinking is, how do we rejuvenate them, and how do we excite these people so that they can actually do art? So I could do art for hours. You could just give me a piece of paper. I can find ways to make myself happy. But I find that it's a challenge to get their attention and retain their attention for more than 1 hour.
So, what do you think is the current technology is a boon or a crutch for an artist? And what is your take on it?
When it comes to AI, or it's just like like current technology, boon, or I think you need to give people skills to combine both. Like you and I come from a generation where it was just half computer and half analog, right? So I hope that we can teach the people more analog stuff and balance it out. It needs to be that. We need to humanize technology a little bit.
True, because it's becoming very easy for a lot of things.
And it's desynthesized. You forget to be human, actually. And people are having relationships with holograms, right? And it's true. Everybody at the back there who's not our age group is going, yeah. They like, these hologram superstars in Japan. They have their own Instagram accounts. And it's exciting from
People are getting married to them.
Yeah. And divorcing themselves. But people, from a content standpoint, that's so exciting, right? Like to create stories behind that and to navigate that. But as a consumer, now that I'm out for 4 years consuming content, it's very worrying.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, art and piracy. Okay, so it's like any other medium, it's on the rise. You can, you can download stuff, you can tweak stuff and make it your own, and then, So how do you think it can be curbed?
When I left media, I had this whole idea because I was doing licensing, right? My last tenure that I was doing art, animation, and licensing. And I'm like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to start doing licensing. And nobody knows any better, right? And it's like I realized everything, okay, all the copyright belongs to you. But there is impossible for you to license a paisley, right? And it costs a lot of money to do that. And of course, in Malaysia, the laws are not protecting you. It's only protecting you in Malaysia. But when you go out to China, it's not protected, as you know, right? So it's more money to then patent all of that. And it just takes one tweet, and then suddenly it's not already. So it's a huge problem in art. People are plagiarizing, taking things off, and you can't protect it.
It's like television content formats,
Yeah.
You change a little bit and it becomes a new format.
It's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And then like in South India, they changed a little bit and called it something else, exactly the same thing. I know that story because I used to produce the show, but yeah, so that's the state of it, right? And when you were asking me this question before, I thought about Bina, who was a textile designer in India. And she comes from like hundreds of years of her family all do fabrics. And I asked her, this particular design and motif, you did it from your village and all that. People, what do you do when people copy it? Just design some more. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Clean and clear answer.
You can't help it, Nini. Because she's just saying, you can't help it, Nini. Everybody's going to copy you. Do more. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. So as artists, I think, yeah, we can create more. It doesn't stop us, right?
Yeah. And, coming back to your favorite subject, AI.
Yeah.
So with AI creating art, like on a click of a button, and what do you think the future holds for content creators and artists?
I like it. But I'm excited for AI. I did AI and Google once. Google invited me to test the learning machinery behind AI. And so I was invited to do this thing, and all I needed to do was submit my painting. At first I was like, no, I don't want anybody to learn my painting. And then after a while, like, you know what? I'm going to learn. This was like 10 years ago. So I gave the painting to Google. They ran, and suddenly, like, you could flash the camera over and then suddenly it's kind of my style, this AI technology. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's scary, but it's cool. But they can't replicate soul. So I've had people plagiarize my style before, and I'm not like inspired by Nini, but they cannot replicate what I do with it. Because I have...
You have your mark on it.
I have some mumbo jumbo I do. Like I said, meditation. I said, today, when you see this painting, it's going to be inspirational. And it's really true. Okay, like, don't laugh. It's true. Like, yeah, I do some real, like, magic stuff on my paint. And you can't replicate that. AI can't do it. AI can only copy whatever that you teach. And sooner or later they're gonna like mess it up anyway. So it's not gonna be super perfect. I'm excited to teach AI how to draw with me, and I'm excited to see how we can dance together and co-create and do that. But I think the balance here is that we, the human, need to understand our parameters with them, and we need to also be able to decipher what is AI, what's not. Now, I can't predict if we can actually decipher what is AI, what is not in the future, but for now, I can tell what's AI.
Yeah, the fingers are never right when they come out with pictures.
And then even if you ask like, Claude or Chat GPT to write a concept for you, and I'm already like, Claude, try again. That's horrible. That's not my tone of language at all. I'm sorry, Nini, can I try again? So it's like, we taught AI, right? And I think we can continue to teach AI. I think it's pretty exciting. I go back to my professor back in the day, 1998, when I was studying visual communications. And at the time, TV was going digital in the UK. And computers were we were talking about vector art, like avatar, right? Like one day we're going to have fake actors. And it was like, well, Avatar just came out, right?
Yeah.
So that was years ago. And he said, the computer is your tool. So AI is your tool. It could be your best friend or it could be your enemy, but it's there. And you need to just play around with it and see. Maybe we're meant to just figure out what to do with it, But again, nothing beats tactile. So I always say, balance it out with paint.
So with that note, we come to the end of the show. Thank you, Nini, for taking time out and coming and giving such great insights into art and the broadcast industry. And we wish you all the best in your future endeavors and whatever you are doing for the art scene in Malaysia. More power to you. And we'll see what you'll be working in the next year and many years ahead. And best of luck for that.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Abid. I'm so happy to be here. We did talk a lot about content, but
that is content, that is something which makes content beautiful.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
we have talked the packaging of the content, which makes everything beautiful.
See, this is why you're the artist of the content. But thank you for having me. And I think that I look forward to also seeing what you want to do. And in the future, I think that you and I can work together a lot more. Sure. That we need more storytellers to tell more stories about our fabrics and more stories about our art. So I think that collaboration should happen.
Inshallah, for sure. Thank you once again, Nini, for coming.
Thank you.
That was Nini Marini, an artist like no other. With so many opportunities and challenges facing artists today, how they navigate the technological future remains to be seen. Thank you for watching, and until the next episode, keep stewing.